Hello and welcome to Devereux Fireside Chat video series. My name is Amy Ashman. I'm Devereux Director of Communications. This summer, Devereux National Board of Trustees approved a strategic plan to help guide our organization through fiscal years 2023 and 2025. The plan prioritizes quality and safety above all else, with families at the center of every decision and every action through our Devereaux Family Standard of Care. In today's Fireside Chat, we're going to touch base with three key leaders who made this strategic plan come to life. I'd like to welcome President and CEO Carl Clark, Senior Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer Leah, who is responsible for executing strategic initiatives across the organization, directing our marketing function, and overseeing the Office of External Affairs. I'd also like to welcome our special guest, Chris Butler, Chairman of Devereux National Board of Trustees, who has served as a trustee since 2006. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get started. Carl, congratulations on adopting Devereux' new strategic plan. I'd like you to talk a little bit about how you feel about this plan and really how would you summarize our organization's direction over the next 3 years?
I'm going to give you 3 points of focus, but first of all, it was a great team effort between the governing board and the executive team. And I may be biased, but I think it's the best plan we've had to date. 3 elements of the plan. It provides intentional direction in how we get to become the highest quality and safest provider in the industry. An example of that is the family standard, which means any family member would feel comfortable placing their child or adult family member in a Devereaux program because of the quality that's within that program. The plan also provides direction and decision support around areas that we want to grow in, areas we want to hold, and areas we want to harvest. What that means is growth. We know we want to grow in education. It's an area of expertise for us, and it's also a de-risking strategy. We know we want to grow evidence-based practices across the board. In the hold category, we know we do a great job in the working with individuals with developmental disabilities. So we want to continue to hold and grow that program because it's been historically very good for Devereaux and very good for the individuals and families served. And then the third is strategic partnerships, mergers and acquisitions, and the synergies that can bring in helping us to fill gaps in the service continuum, such as drug and alcohol. And a secondary piece of that is why is that important for Devereaux? Well, Devereaux is an attractive partner. We're an investment graded program, A- from Fitch, and we have excellent executive team, very skilled team members. And when you look at our balance sheet, it's a healthy one. And some of those factors added together really support the idea that other providers should look hard at Devereaux because we're an attractive program.
Thanks so much, Carl. Chris, I want to turn the spotlight over to you. As chairman of Devereux National Board of Trustees, what was your first reactions to the strategic plan? And really specifically, its significant focus on our families, along with plans for moving forward in today's somewhat challenging behavioral health care environment.
Well, first of all, I agree with Carl that I think it was a great process, probably our best one to date. A lot of folks think that the act of planning is actually more important than the plan itself, because through that planning process, you're able to debate, go back and forth, and develop a consensus on what's the vision for the company. And once you create that vision and come to an agreement, that's really important. Then you can articulate that to the rest of the team. So I think it was great. I think we focused in the end on all the right things. Primarily, our main mission here is to enhance safety, improve quality of care, and minimize risk. Those 3 things just go throughout the document. But there are a lot of other great things in the document as well. So, for example, there's a real commitment on the part of the board and senior leadership to invest in our employees through better pay, increased training, standardized policies so that people actually know what the rules of the road are, what the guidelines are. And I think that's important for everybody rather than guess what they're supposed to be doing. And I just think generally it really values the folks who are on the front line day to day. And, we're trying to create a career path for folks right from entry level direct care staff all the way up through supervisors. So that's a great thing. As Carl mentioned, there's we looked at what's our core business. What are we good at? What do we want to be? And along that path, what are the holes? What are the gaps? So should we develop something, like we did with the pharmacy program, or should we go out and acquire it? A lot of organizations look at everything that comes over the transom and make a decision on whether that's a good M&A process. We don't want to do that. We want to look at what are the things that we need? What are the capabilities that we don't have? And if we can't build it, let's just go out and get it. Let's add it to the whole family of capabilities and organizations that we have. So I think overall it's terrific. We've built in a real component to use innovation and technology to achieve what we're trying to do. So, I think it's great, but best thing about it is, you start out with these things and you feel like you're all over the lot in the middle of it. And then at the end of it, when you put it down on paper and you look at it, you think, boy, we really came to an agreement on what's important and, what do we want to be? So I think the vision piece is really, really very critical.
Thanks so much, Chris. And it's exciting to hear what we're doing with our staff members in terms of career pathing for them. So that's really something that we're all going to look forward to implementing at Devereaux.
Yes.
Leah, I'd like to ask you a question about our strategic plan as it really puts our families at the center of everything we do. Carl touched on the family standard, but could you help define it even further? And why is it so critical that we make every operational decision with our families at top of mind?
That's a great question, Amy. And I think that this plan is exciting for a lot of reasons, but especially because it really formalizes our approach to putting families at the center of our work, which has been Devereux's ethos for, I think, as long as any of us have been involved with Devereux. And interestingly, by our bylaws, 1/3 of our National Board of Trustees is required to be a family member. So historically, that has been parents, but now we're really lucky to be in the early stages of working with siblings. So we have a sibling on our national board. And we have also established a National Family Advisory Board that really brings even more formal input to leadership, to our board and to leadership staff about the thinking of families, their feelings about our programs. It's an opportunity for them to express their needs and their wants specific to Devereaux, but also more broadly specific to the world and their families. That advisory board is creating a sibling initiative, which is going to be absolutely crucial as we really move through this process of families, parents caring for loved ones in Devereaux service, and next siblings taking on that responsibility, which is a large transition. And Devereaux is working on ways to formally support that transition. That's all to say that we really have formally incorporated into our operational thinking how to focus on families. And all of that falls under this umbrella of the Devereaux Family Standard. And I'd be happy to share, I'm not going to read this off to the group, but I'd be happy to share some of the sort of specific definitions of meeting the family standard. And this was really brought to us, this thinking, by both our Board of Trustees, especially our parent trustees and sibling trustees, and our National Family Advisory Board. At its core, the family standard requires that Devereaux will operate programs of such excellence that every employee at Devereaux would be very comfortable with their family member being served within our programs. And that really is an independent, individualized view of how important quality and safety is. If you work at Devereaux, it's your job to make sure that your work directs programs of such excellence that you'd have your own loved ones served in them. And if we do that, we will meet the needs of all of our constituents. And so that's really at the center of our work. Really high quality, evidence-based programs, meeting the needs of families, listening to families, having good two-way communication with families, validating their experiences, and really grounding all of that in an operational culture that takes that in and does the right thing with it.
Thanks so much, Leah. I mean, it's so exciting to hear how much we're focusing on families and why they are so important, because they're really everything at Devereaux. And I do have a follow-up question for you. As our Chief Strategy Officer, you're the one responsible for gathering the input from our various leadership teams, putting pen to paper, as Chris noted, to create this really forward-looking document of where we're headed as an organization. What was that process like, and how long did it take?
So our strategic planning process takes about 18 months. And I will say that while it is a lot of work, it's always really exciting. And I think Chris spoke to this earlier. It's the opportunity for a new day, right? It's the opportunity to really look at what you've done for the last 3 years. We operate on a 3-year cycle, and, evaluate where you've been, where you're going, what's most important to the people you serve, and how well you've done. And in the last 5 years, our board has really created structures and processes that are really very much about management accountability, responsibility to families, answering hard questions, and creating an environment where there's a lot of transparency and an opportunity for us to be very honest about ourselves, our organization, and how we can do better, as every organization should always focus on how you can do better. What's the next step? So it's an exciting process. It's a lot of communication, like all things, like all business processes. If they're done well, they're really about communication, being open to input, right? Not just theoretically open to input, but truly open to input from your constituencies. And we've changed things up a bit, and we've created both formal and informal mechanisms to make sure that we are seeking the input of all of our constituencies, our families, the individuals we serve and care, our staff, critically important, and all of our external partners, from regulators and politicians to customers and community members who live and work around Devereaux programs. So it's a very engaged process. It's a detailed process, but it always feels like New Year to me when we pass a new strategic plan. It always feels like New Year's Day, and you have a new chance to really dive in and move your organization forward. So I just have to thank the board and Carl, who really had a vision 5 or 6 years ago of revamping this process and making it more about sort of collective and collaborative approach to planning.
Thanks for explaining that, Leah. I want to switch gears for a second. Carl, midway through the last strategic cycle, Devereux launched the most comprehensive quality and safety initiative in our organization's history. So our new strategic plan really reinforces that commitment to safety and quality. And I'd like you to tell us a little bit about some of the recent milestones or achievements in the name of quality and safety at Devereaux.
Sure. While we had a great foundation of a safety and quality plan, what we didn't have, and what the board was helpful in identifying for us, was that we lacked a C-suite position of a chief safety and risk officer who looked at organization-wide risk management and safety. So we conducted a national search, and we fortunately ended up with an awesome candidate by the name of Kelsey Lawson, JD. And in the short time that she's been here, she's already made meaningful improvements across the board and adjustments that make a lot of sense, what you sometimes get when someone comes into the organization with a fresh set of eyes. So that's been great. And also, to build on some of Chris's earlier speaking about the investments in staff and safety, by the end of this year, the board has approved an expenditure of $75 million in capital improvements. The vast majority of that directly is related to technology that's involved with safety and quality, as well as some physical plant improvements. In addition to that, investment in staff. The last 3 years, we've invested $30 million in direct care staff and also to deal with some compression issues. In the next 3 years, we expect to invest an additional $45 million in direct care staff. And when you think about that combined, that's a $150 million investment focused at safety, quality, and retaining the best quality workforce that we can possibly have. And that's really significant in our space.
Wow, those numbers are really impressive, Carl. Thanks for sharing that. Leah, the plan also includes language around cultivating a comprehensive organizational ecology of excellence, a quality management system rooted in the principles of continuous quality improvement. What does that mean? And how will we do this? How will we achieve it?
Carl's discussion of our new Chief Risk and Safety Officer is really central to this plan, as is our board's focus on a comprehensive ecology of quality and safety. So really, to diagram what that means, at the center of everything Devereaux does is our Devereaux family standard. Our families who understand this work, this field, and the needs of the people we serve better than anyone. Radiating out from our families and the standard they have set are our operations. And everything we do every day has to focus in on that voice of the family and what they tell us is right for their loved ones. And surrounding that environment is this organizational ecology of quality management. Our new Chief Safety and Risk Officer, who is just phenomenal, is really the linchpin to that environment. And her job is to look holistically at everything Devereux does every day, granularly in operations, broadly in planning, and ensure that the focus of our everyday work and our long-term work is quality and safety. That's what we must do first before we can do anything else. All of our operations have to be rooted in safe practices and quality practices. And we always need to be pushing the envelope, right? To become better, to become the organization that Devereux knows it needs to be for those we serve. So it's really, very simply, an approach to quality and safety management that is first and foremost above all things. And from there, we do the work of the organization.
Thanks so much, Leah. My final question is for Chris. So Chris, when you look at everything that's going on at Devereaux, how do you feel about our organization's future?
I'm very optimistic, very positive, very excited. I think that, we've got a lot of things in our favor. I think, aside from the fact that the endowment gives us a tremendous security and foundation, I think right now we're focused on all the right things. I can't think of a single thing that we're doing that is not relevant or going to have an impact on the success of the organization. I think, we've really increased how we value staff and, really want to form a partnership with them to achieve our goals, as Carl said, of having the best quality and the safest environment of any organization in the behavioral health field. So I feel really good about it. I think we've got a great management team. Carl's really put together a great group here, and I think they all bring unique skills and talents to the table. I think the addition of the new Chief Risk and Safety Officer is unique. I'm not aware of another organization in our peer group that has a position like that and has put that much emphasis on safety and risk mitigation. So I think it's great, and we've got a great board. We, as I think Leah said, the third of the board are family members. We've actually got one individual who at one point in his life was a client. He was served by Devereaux and now has moved on to achieve success in his field of business. We've got a great psychiatrist that we recently added to the board. So got a lot of talent both on the board and in management, but most importantly, I think we're on the same page. So I feel good about it. I'm very excited.
Thanks so much, Chris. And that's good news for all of us.
Just one last thought I wanted to add, as Chris rotates next year out of board leadership, we really just want to thank you, Chris. You've been in senior leadership of the board for 12 years, at least. 6 years as vice chair of the board, 6 years as chairman of the board, oversaw a CEO transition really of nearly the entire leadership team. And it was very much Chris who encouraged us and really pushed us to think about our planning process a little bit more holistically, right? Engage our constituents a little bit more formally, while at the same time, really dialing in on what is Devereux's core business? What is our purpose for existing? And really, how do we dial in on what matters most in this really complicated healthcare environment where you have to plan for everything? How do you center that in all the right things? And so, Chris, we just want to Thank you for that.
Thank
It's
you.
been a complicated 12 years, but we're really grateful to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And I would certainly add to that, Chris. Personally, I thank you for the guidance and leadership. We would not have been able to innovate, evolve at the pace that we are, and be the vibrant organization we are becoming without your contributions, as well as a fully engaged board of some incredible people who take that responsibility very seriously. And we and all the families that we serve are the beneficiaries of that leadership and guidance. So thank you.
Thank you.
Carl, Leah, Chris, thank you for your time today. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for putting this plan together so we know where we're headed for the next at least 3 years.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak to everyone today. And it's been, believe me, it's been a privilege to serve Devereux. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to all those watching, thanks for your viewership. Stay tuned for the next episode. Take care and be well.